This is like getting your hair done, like women getting your hair done.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Justin and this is my dad. Today's video we're going to be talking about some of the stories and experiences that we've had growing up and we got to share together, and you guys wrote in a lot of questions, and so we're going to do our best to answer those questions today. Alright, well thank you so much for hanging out with us today and for doing the video with us. For those of you guys who don't know, this is my father. You could say that this is that Christian father. Okay. And today we're going to go through some of the questions that you guys have, but before we do that, I wanted to introduce him a little bit to you guys. Okay. My dad is a dentist by trade. You've been practicing dentistry now for
27 years.
27 years. You're an old man.
Yeah.
27 years, and there's a really interesting story about how he started his practice and all that kind of stuff that I wanted to share with you guys before we jump right away into the questions. And it was because, many years ago when my grandfather, your father, was still alive, and you were wanting to go through you went through dental school and all that kind of stuff, and you wanted to open up your own practice, so you actually asked my grandfather for a loan to help you start the practice and stuff like that. And the reason why, to me, the story is interesting is because my grandfather actually told you no. And the reason why this is a big deal is because my grandfather was rather wealthy. He made millions of dollars, right?
He was a gambler. He was a professional gambler, and he made quite a lot of money. His 1099s were up to maybe 10 million a year. He averaged about 10 million a year for a couple of years.
So you finished dental school and you're ready to try and serve the world and do a good thing and provide for your family, and you just need a little bit of help from your grandpa or from your father, and he's just like, no.
Exactly.
Pretty much, like no. And obviously that wasn't, I would imagine, that wasn't a very fun moment for you, right?
It was actually a shocking moment because he like you said, the words were no, and he made it a point like I wasn't ready, or he wasn't ready for me to be ready. I'm not sure what it was, but the answer was no.
and so that story takes like 7-8 years for you to learn the lesson, but eventually, as time goes by, you're pissed off, you're really angry at him, you probably didn't want to talk to him, but something great came out of that moment, right?
Yeah. Making my last check, actually the person who actually pulled through was Grandma. Grandma actually pulled through. She hawked the house for
me.
Yeah, so I didn't really share that with you earlier. But so I ended up paying my last payment to Grandma, and when I paid that last payment, it was a really a cool moment where you knew that you actually did something. You toiled really hard for something, and you got something in return. So it was a good thing.
In a roundabout way, it became a blessing.
Yes, the blessing basically was my independence. The tough love, I would like to say, that Grandpa did on me was something that actually probably built more character than I thought. Versus him paying for it for me, or because I actually asked him for a loan. I wasn't asking for free money. Yeah. But I figured he was the easiest person to get a loan. But just even the struggle of getting a loan and just organizing everything just to make things work, it built more in me than actually having it easy.
Cool. All right, well with that, thanks for sharing the story. Yep. Let's go ahead and dive right into the questions that you guys sent in today. So the first question comes from Sarai, which says, since your dad's Filipino/Chinese, how was the family introduced into Christianity?
From what I gather, whether it was my grandfather or my great-grandfather, some American missionaries, I believe, took fond of him and took him under his wings. They said he was an orphan. I'm not sure.
This was in
Indonesia,
right?
And
so we were Chinese, but living in Indonesia at the time.
Correct.
So we were adopted by American missionaries?
That's one version.
That's the version
That's the version I'm believing at this point in time.
So we were adopted, and then basically into that family, that's how we were introduced into Christianity. Because you were raised in a Christian home, so that's kind of how our family was introduced. Yeah. Cool. Second question is Julia's asking, what's the worst thing that your son ever did? Is there that many?
We have 27, no, just kidding, no. He was pretty tough when he was younger, definitely for sure. But as I think God came into your life, and can change your heart. You forget a lot of this stuff. At least I don't like to remember them. But let's see, tough things. Oh, yes. Okay, so I remember one time, out of the blue, we're playing poker.
Is that what we were doing?
Yeah, we were playing poker.
We're following in your dad's footsteps.
Exactly.
By the way, the end of the story, and the end of his father's story is that even though he made multiple millions of dollars, he ended up dead with nothing, right? He was bankrupt.
Well, not he didn't have as much as, he made. But so back to the story we're playing poker, and I don't know what happened, but for some reason you decided to cold cock Jordan, and you went right after his chin.
So
I'm like,
that's not a good thing?
No. And I'm looking like, what? Everyone was playing poker, and out of the blue, one punch. And then you could just see Jordan like getting pretty pissed. All of a sudden, cold cocks you and knocks you. I'm like, okay, guys, come on, seriously, you can't do this in front of other people. And that was kind of a shocker as far as parents, because that was not really. You never went after each other's throats that hard.
At least not in front of you.
Not well. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. But yeah.
That was a tough one, because they weren't that young, and they were pretty big. So these punches, as a dentist, I'm like, are your teeth okay? So,
that's the concern, is our teeth.
Forget about how bad you are. How your teeth are okay. That's okay.
Okay, cool. Next question, or kind of on a similar line. Caitlin is asking, I want to hear about how much Justin was a troublemaker.
What I remember, when he was 6 months old, I remember the first time I had to kind of spank him. Now,
at 6 months, what did I do at 6 months?
I don't
only
know.
things I could have done was cry or poop.
You did something that was it's a blur. It's been 27 plus years, and I just remembered spanking you, and it wasn't like it was just a nice little tap, but it was a tap that I think for most 6-month-olds should never get. But we need to go a little bit further back. You were colic for 8 months straight.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what colic means is I come home from the hospital and I start crying and I don't stop for 8 months.
Exactly, and your mom doesn't really tear up a whole lot, but I'm sure she got affected. She was thinking like, what am I doing wrong? How come I can't keep this kid quiet? And you were a tough one. Not only with me.
Totally. Like I was definitely a handful, and you affectionately told me once that you made all of your mistakes as a parent with me, your oldest child. And so there's a little bit of learning on both ends, right?
I think it's because you challenged it,
Always pushing against the buck.
Exactly.
All right. Next question, Vivacious Hannah says, did you guys have any fun traditions or hobbies that helped the both of you connect with each other?
Well, I'd say a lot of it was really surrounded around sports. Mm-hmm. When they were younger, it was bowling. We tried to get you into tennis. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember taking tennis. I remember not liking tennis too much, but bowling was fun. And when I was in high school, that was actually something that we would do every single week. I ended up. It's very weird to say this out loud, but I bowled competitively in a certain sense, and where I get like college scholarships and things like that. But a lot of our hobbies surrounded sports or something like that.
Yeah. A little side note. I don't know if you knew this, but Grandpa didn't want me to play any kind of sports. He just wanted me to study, and that was it. So
you told me that it was either study or work on the farm.
Yeah. So I made it a point to make sure that my kids had something different.
In fact, one major thing that was very helpful was when I was in high school, you actually ended up helping coach the flag football team that I was a part of, right?
Yeah. I was able to get involved. Well, actually, if you go even further back, when you're going through Little League, we coached you.
Baseball.
We did soccer. What else? Football. Football during high school years.
Yeah, so the majority of what we did together growing up was
sports.
Oftentimes activity related.
Yeah.
Next question, Kareen asks, what were some of the traditions y'all had growing as a family?
Well, family gatherings, to me, could be our tradition with Thanksgiving and your Christmas and whatever major holiday, to give an excuse for the family members to kind of join together. I think that was kind of somewhat of our tradition.
Yeah, I would think so, and maybe not even just on like special occasions, but just like random weekends. I can't count how many times like on a just given Saturday afternoon or something like that, we just had 30 people at the house just because.
Yeah.
And we would just eat food together and hang out and just chill. And so.
I think as brothers and sisters get older and they have their own smaller families, they miss each other. At least I miss my brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm. So just having them all. And you have how many brothers and sisters?
We're a total of 7 brothers and sisters.
Goodness gracious. So there's a big family.
Yeah.
Like literally there's like 30, 40 people at the house when we get everyone together. It's
exactly.
kind of nuts. Belly is asking, how did you imagine your son in 2017, 10 years ago? So how did you think, like 10 years ago when I was still in high school, what did you imagine I would be doing in 2017?
When we look back where you were in high school, there were so many things that you were kind of going through that employed was a good thing.
As long as I'm employed. Employed and out of prison.
Employed, out of prison, and educated. No. It would have been.
That really were like the main ones that you were emphasizing.
It would have been.
Go back and question. Someone asked, like, what was one of the worst things that I did growing up? One of those things was I actually did get arrested for shoplifting once. So I don't know. Maybe seriously, it was just being employed. Oh, I can't do this. So yeah, I don't know, maybe like it's kind of a joke now, but like the whole idea of just being educated, employed, and not in prison, that may have been very serious. But we were talking about, how to answer that question, because 10 years ago, it was right around the time that I made the decision to become a Christian. So, afterwards there were different concerns compared to before, right?
Yeah, the first thing was basically like finding your direction. I grew up knowing what I wanted to do at age seventh grade.
12 years old.
12 years old. Like like I want to help people. I want to be in the medical field. I was good with hands, so why
so
not
when you would ask me, what do I want to be when I grow up, and my response is like, I don't know, or I don't, just.
I don't get it.
I think most of our viewers are more in line with me. I'm still trying to figure that out,
Yeah, I don't get that. For me, it was pretty straight and pretty easy, and it's definitely my calling at the same time. So,
Wayne is asking, what was one of your favorite bonding experiences?
Well, I mean, you almost have to surround it with sports. As we were pretty distant in going through your high school years, and to somewhat coach you at the same time and father you at the same time. When I see the progression going forward, even though there weren't really words between the two of us, it's a warm, fuzzy feeling. When you have a child, you're going to understand it probably a little bit more. But
it's so interesting because you're right. When I was younger in high school and junior high and things like that, we namely did things together that required like 0 words. Like it was just, or maybe like the words that were used were like, hey, swing the bat this way, or throw the ball in another way, or whatever the case is. But now, like today, we have like 0 shared hobbies now because I'm in another state.
Old.
I'm older, and like you like to cycle, I don't like to cycle, or we don't have any shared hobbies.
Stronger.
Whatever. But the thing that we like to do today, or at least for me, is we just talk.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to see the dynamic of our relationship completely switch over the years. And one of the things that I enjoy the most nowadays is just being able to talk about life and to talk about ideas. And I think that probably one of the biggest reasons that I have, this ability to think outside the box is a lot of times because you've challenged a lot of my ideas, and you kind of play like the counterpoint or the devil's advocate to some of my ideas or theories or whatever the case is. And to me, those discussions are really exciting.
Sure.
Which is weird because, as a kid in high school, you grow up thinking that your parents are complete buffoons, just like they don't know anything. They don't know up, down, left, or right, and you're just like, gosh, Dad, why do you keep lecturing me? But now as an adult male, like those are the things that I actually appreciate the most.
There's a video of him. Sorry, there is a video of him. What do you call that? That we took. You wanted me to read a book. I just came home from work. You were not even barely 2 years of age. And I read it to you once, and then you said, read it again. And I was really lazy and really tired at the moment. I said, here, why don't you read it? Tell me what try reading the book. And you literally went word for word through the whole thing. And it shocked me so much that I called your mom, hey, let's video this. And you didn't know how to read, but you were that quick. So there was, to me, you had so many things that were going, that was awesome as for a father. You had the special gifts, and
Yeah, I don't know what happened since then because now my memory is trash.
I don't know, but I think you had a lot.
The Father's love for you says, were you surprised when Justin, instead of following in your footsteps and becoming a dentist or a more mainstream profession, ended up going into ministry? And how did you feel about that at the time?
Well, I think I was in denial in the first part because I think before the ministry part, I was trying to push you to be educated, try to get straight A's, pushing you. But
as pretty much every Asian parent in the history of the world has ever done.
But I think at the end of the day, there are so many things that can cause you to hate it. So you really have to love whatever you're doing, specifically in dentistry. There's so many hurdles you have to come over or get over. Yeah. And so you really have to fall in love with what you wanted. And when you started falling in love with ministry, who am I supposed to argue? That's God's will. So what am I supposed to say?
Right.
So
there you go. And have your feelings about it changed in any way now?
Well, I think I'm a hell of a lot more. Sorry. I'm way more supportive of your ministry because I really I see the same
now
vision.
Compared to then.
Absolutely.
No, that's actually really true. When I first gave my heart to the Lord, I actually wanted to go to a Bible college, and I remember telling you, and I was expecting you to be like, good, like this is maybe one of the first times that you've ever had direction, as far as what you want to do for the future, and surprisingly, like your response was like no, like absolutely not, and I was just like, what in the? At the time, I was really really confused, like why would he not want me to do this? But I think we've talked about that in the past. That you were just really trying to test my resolve, test my determination about that. You want to jump in on that, or?
Well, there are multiple ways that he could have done it anyways. There was an alternative that his mom and I were in agreement that doing this particular route might even be an easier route. He chose a very unique route, and so I said, well, if the Lord's drawing you that way, I'm not going to argue against the Lord, but you're on your own. You got to do it on your own, kind of like. So
it was kind of like one of those. All right, well, good luck then. Like,
yeah, good luck. I'll watch you from afar.
It was kind of like the whole like you trying to open up an office, but your dad not really being supportive in that sense. But in another sense, your dad was actually trying to be as supportive as he could, perhaps in a different way.
Correct,
you didn't understand it at the time, but it ended up being one of the biggest blessings that you could have done.
Yeah, and I would probably say that may have a little to play, because I think at this point in time, you were taking a huge risk, I think. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to take the risks, you need to...
You got to really own it. You got to really go all in. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Christian Studios is saying you and your dad should talk over family issues that you might have had. Growing up, there were a lot of family issues, and there's one major one that comes into play. We're planning on doing an entire video on that subject. There was like at a period of, I don't know, it was 2-3 years basically, where I, as a son, somehow ended up disowning you, and I didn't want to talk to you, and like, yeah, it was bad. It was explosive and everything else like that. But we will talk about that in a future video.
Yeah.
Genesis is asking, how do you find the balance to take care of your family time as well as your time with God?
Is that for you or for me?
I don't know. Well, okay, I'll go. I'll say, for me, what I try to do is I emphasize less, like a single moment in my day where that's what I do. I understand there's immense value in, just like a devotional period with God or a dedicated quiet time in the morning, and I still believe that that's important. But for me, I try to put a greater emphasis on, rather than one moment, I try to have many moments sprinkled throughout my day where my mind is drawn back to those things. So whether it's through reading a book, or it's through a podcast or an audiobook or music or something like that, I try to have multiple moments throughout the day that draw my attention back towards the things that matter most to me. And so for me, it's trying to build that into my routine. So every time I get in the car, I listen to something of spiritual edification. Every time, maybe it's for a season of my life, every time I got in the shower, it was, I listened to a sermon, or I listened to some audio Bible or something along those lines. So that's kind of what I try to do.
I think mine's a little more simpler than that. You wake up in the morning, you read your Bible. It's
Is that before or after Facebook and YouTube?
Before Facebook, no, not so much YouTube. Facebook, Instagram, some golf game, and a couple other
Try
golf apps.
Yeah.
And then, no, it's kidding. It's,
You like to do the morning time.
Morning time, I like the way that starts. And usually the consistent prayer that I always have is, Lord, what do you want me to do today? Help me do your will. And then you go through the day. And so part of me, I don't necessarily need the podcast. Here I am working on a patient and a certain situation occurs. And then sometimes I feel like I fulfill God's will. Sometimes I feel I fall short of it. But the idea is I'm using my 8 hours of the day to display it, I guess. I don't know.
To try and live it out.
Yeah, to live it out.
To experience faith in the first person.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. And then after that, then you close it with prayer in the evening.
Anna is asking, as a Christian parent, were you ever worried that Justin wouldn't grow up to become a follower of God?
Yes. Well, if you asked me before he committed his life to the Lord, absolutely. I had no idea what this kid was going to do, and it was a huge concern.
That really was like the story about, I mean, you guys heard it. I did the video earlier this week where I talked about like the story of my high school was like I had no clue what to do. I had no direction. There really wasn't anything in life that I found interesting or motivating except for like sports or video games. And so, yeah, I mean, I can totally understand why you would feel that way.
Yeah, so do you understand how you stressed me out and I had to...
It reminds me of the video when Emily was talking about, I was sharing how you used to beat me as a child, and Emily's like, no, not beat. She was like, no, exactly beat.
I have to say, I've had to beat him a couple times.
More than a couple times.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I looking back on it, I needed it.
It was all done with love, by the way.
It was done in ignorance and love.
Purely love.
Okay, last question for this video is from Julie's Journey to Health, and she says, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Taking care of part of your grandkids or, and part-time working, something like that.
So Jordan's going to have kids?
No.
Jordan and Nick, you're going to have kids?
Emily?
Oh, boy.
No, I like this to see, in 10 years, that's plenty of time for you and
it's a long time.
Emily, Jordan, and Ashley to have one kid.
At least.
One on both sides,
On both sides?
Yeah,
boy.
so, and probably hopping from one home to another home, visiting,
You're going to be retired by that? Because you're 52 years
52.
old now, right?
I think my game plan is at least 15 more years left in me, and if it goes a little bit longer, great. If it's shorter, then that's what it is.
Yeah.
But ideally, part-time working, maybe even doing some teaching. I actually teach right now too as well. But
cool. For me, 10 years, I don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, so much is up in the air right now. I would like to think that for the first off, of course, is I would love to continue doing ministry. What that ministry will look like and in what form, I don't know the answer to that. I hope and I would love that YouTube is still a very huge part of my ministry. That's
it probably
really
won't be around.
There's going to be probably some new platform. Whatever. I hope that online ministry is a huge part of that. And I would love not only to have like my own channel, like doing well, but I would also really love to be a part of a larger network of Christian YouTubers or other cases and really pour into that and try and affect change through there.
And if you ever wonder why I'm more supportive of that, because I really think you can get there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping for that too.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, that were all the questions that we had for today. Is there anything else you want to leave our viewers with before we close?
We went through a lot. I know as a parent, my number one goal is always to be a parent still. And whether we agreed or not, it wasn't going to change my role as a parent. And I prayed and hoped, as any other good parent would, I guess, to see that we would come back at some point in time, in which we did, and super happy.
Cool.
So I'm glad. So parents out there,
keep at 'em.
Keep on parenting. Stubborn kids like this, keep on parenting. That's good.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Right?
All right.
You got beaten. Yeah, you were stubborn. Dustin. Take that out.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And as I like to say, until next time, I'm that Christian vlogger, and we want to encourage you to experience faith in the first person.
Awesome.
God bless.